10 people who fell into animal enclosures at zoos. Zoos offer a way for people to witness real animals up close and personal without fear of harm. Extensive thought and planning goes into making the enclosures, which takes into account both animals' comfort and visitors' safety. No zoo visitors are 100% safe from danger, however. Whenever zoos take ferocious animals out of their natural habitat, it presents a dangerous risk to guests, albeit a slim one. There have been disasters where people get too close to the animals or try to spot them from a certain angle to get a better look. They end up inside the enclosure, trapped with the animal and suddenly in a situation where they're fighting for their lives. Let's go. 10. Mauled by a tiger. Tigers are most certainly one of the most vicious wild animals out there. They have this killer instinct and aura about them that will make you stop dead in your tracks. Unfortunately, a 55-year-old female zookeeper from Zurich, Switzerland, experienced the trauma firsthand in 2020. While she had worked at the zoo for many years and had taken care of many fierce animals, including lions and bears, she was in no way ready for what she endured. She was on duty to clean the tiger's enclosure and bring in the food for the animal while the beast was locked inside a small cage inside the area. However, she unfortunately forgot to lock the gate where the tiger was kept while she performed her duty. It wasn't long before she found herself face to face with the tiger, and before anyone could do anything, the beast jumped at her and mauled her. The other employees quickly came to her rescue, but it was too late, and she succumbed to her injuries. 9. Drunk guy almost drowns a bear. A 23-year-old Polish man jumped into a bear's enclosure at a zoo, all while he was drunk. As soon as the COVID lockdown was lifted and the zoo was open for the public in Warsaw, Poland, the man, drunk out of his mind, entered the bear's enclosure and tried to annoy it. Before long, the man jumped into the pool inside the enclosure trying to evade the chasing bear. But what happens next amazed millions around the world. The bear, named Sabrina, prowls around the floundering drunk from above before lumbering into the water after him. At this point, the man grapples with the bear and can be seen trying to drown her as he forces her head underwater, while shocked visitors watch on. The man eventually managed to escape with minor cuts and was taken to hospital. Zoo spokesman Karkruska said, "Sabrina, an old bear who was attacked by an adult man, physically came out of this event unscratched, but she is very stressed. She used to belong to a circus and is accustomed to the presence of people, but she absolutely did not expect a human attack." After the event, Sabrina sat in the water, growling nervously, until her caretakers came to look after her. 8. Indian tigress. If you look at statistics, the chances of someone getting attacked at a zoo are close to 1%, but that 1% seems to happen pretty often. Case in point is the shocking end of a 35-year-old man mauled to death by a tigress in Bhagwan Birsa Biological Park in Ranchi, India on March 4, 2014. The death was clearly an occasional lapse on the part of the 6 security guards in the Ranchi Zoo when the motor mechanic Wasim Ansari climbed a tree near the tigress enclosure to scale the concrete wall of the moat, which was dry, and jumped across it to reach the stone stairs near where the 9-year-old tigress, Anushka, was pacing. According to the eyewitnesses, as Wasim walked up to the 200-kilogram tigress, he greeted the carnivore with folded hands and bowed low. Though the guards and onlookers tried clapping and shouting to spook the tigress, they could not scare it off. A tranquilizer gun could not be accessed immediately. Seconds later, the irritated tigress leapt at him, grabbed him by the neck, and almost chewed it up. It was all over in one split second. 7. The girl and the pandas. Pandas are usually seen as chubby and cute creatures who like to hug and cuddle. Well, what if we told you that these beasts can be extremely dangerous to humans, especially for children? A 9-year-old girl got up close with China's favorite furry national icon, quite literally. when she fell into a fenced breeding area. A video of the red-clad little girl falling into the giant panda enclosure went viral online. Beijing Youth Daily reported that in the video, a panda can be seen approaching the girl after she fell into the breeding area in Chengdu, in China's Sichuan province. A security guard tries to save her by using a bamboo pole, but this attempt fails. The guard then goes under the railings surrounding the breeding area and extends his arms, managing to pull up the girl. Several tourists and onlookers surrounding the area let out cries of shock as they watched the girl struggling to get out of the enclosure. Luckily for the girl, the pandas were more curious than furious by her presence, and everyone went home safely that day. 6. Boy versus gorilla. No, this isn't about Harambe. In a 1996 incident at an Illinois zoo, a female gorilla cradled a 3-year-old boy who fell nearly 20 feet into her enclosure, resulting in an amazing incident. An 8-year-old gorilla named Binti Jua made worldwide headlines when she carried a boy to safety after he slipped away from his mother and climbed through a barrier at the Western Lowland Gorilla Pit at Brookfield Zoo on August 19, 1996. Video shows the boy lying on the ground before Binti Jua gingerly picks him up around the waist, carrying him to the door where rescuers waited as a crowd looked on. There were 6 other gorillas in the exhibit at the time. The 150-pound gorilla carried her own 17-month baby named Kula on her back throughout the encounter with the boy, which may indicate that her maternal instincts led her to rescue him. The boy suffered a broken hand and cuts to his face and spent 4 days at the hospital. He and his mother were never identified. 5. Saving chimps. In 1990, during a visit to the Detroit Zoo, truck driver Rick Swope did something no one else would do, and tragedy was averted because of it. As Swoop stood looking in on the facility's ape enclosure, a fight broke out between a chimp named Jojo and another male. After the brief scuffle, Jojo tried to escape, only to end up falling into a deep moat designed to keep him in. Since chimps are unable to swim, the move nearly proved fatal. Everyone in the whole place was just standing around watching this monkey drown, Swoop said while recalling the incident. When he went down the second time, I knew I had to do something. Despite being warned to keep away by a zookeeper, Swoop sprang into action, climbing a security wall to dive in after Jojo, saving the chimp's life while putting his own at risk. 4. All for a hat. A woman was caught on video as she jumped into a tiger's enclosure at a zoo in Toronto. At first, nobody could understand why a woman would, who was there with at least one child, do such a stupid thing. As it turns out, her hat had somehow ended up on the inside of the fence, and she jumped over the first fence in order to get to it. This feat makes the tiger lunge at her as it fiercely tries to get a hold of her. Luckily for the lady, the tiger was behind a second fence, which was higher than the first one, and she walked away unscratched. Turns out that nobody from the zoo administration or the security knew anything about the incident that took place at the zoo, and the woman walked away. However, the other zoo visitors were there to give her a piece of their minds and called her everything from a moron to words that we should not repeat. 3. Stay away from rhinos. An unlucky 2-year-old girl fell into a rhino exhibit and was lucky enough to have survived the ordeal. The incident happened at the Brevard Zoo in Melbourne, Florida, during a hands-on educational experience called a rhino encounter, according to a statement from zoo spokesman Elliot Zarulnik. Each session, led by a zookeeper, lasts about 20 minutes and is open to guests ages 3 and up. During the encounter, participants and the rhinoceroses are separated by a series of steel poles. According to witnesses, the child stumbled and fell in between 2 of the poles, and at this point, the snout of at least one of the rhinoceroses injured the child. She was in the enclosure for roughly 10 seconds before she was pulled out. The child was taken to Arnold Palmer Hospital for Children, and she made a full recovery with only a couple of minor injuries. 2. Polar bite. A polar bear attacked a woman at Berlin Zoo after she climbed a fence and jumped into its habitat during feeding time. Well, what else did she expect would happen? One adult polar bear bit the woman several times before she plunged into the moat where rescuers and zoo workers were tossing her rescue rings to drag her out of the water. But her worries were far from over. Before she was finally retrieved from the enclosure, the rescuers had to distract a couple of polar bears that had entered the water in pursuit of the woman. Funny thing, she was only issued a citation for trespassing by the police for the whole fiasco and made a full recovery at the hospital. That is a cheap getaway for such a stupid move. 1. The Naked Man. David Weaver of Nelson, British Columbia, Canada, stripped naked and joined the sharks at Ripley's Aquarium in downtown Toronto after a couple of drinks in October 2019. And if you think that is dumb enough, he said he will do it again. A video posted by a tourist at the aquarium shows Weaver splashing around as tourists laugh and cheer in the background, shouting, "He is completely naked." Weaver was even ordered to get out of the tank by security guards, which he does, but then performs a backwards dive into the water. The 38-year-old then swam around for a further 5 minutes before leaving with a female companion. But his aquatic display was captured on CCTV, and he was picked up by the police 4 days later. He pleaded guilty and served a 12-month suspended sentence, and he attended counseling and cannot return to Ripley's, ever. However, while leaving the court after the trial, he told the reporters that he will do it again.